get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify when you and God in time are best aligned.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, D-R-N-I-Q. It's pronounced Nii-Quartelai, but just type in Dr. Nii-Q and I pop right on up. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Also, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast powered by KBLA Talk 1580. That way you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, if you're on Substack, go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe to me on Substack. You can find me at Dr. Nii-Quartelai there as well. I'm really excited about Substack. We'll talk more about that later. But now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, the Education Department plans to lay off 1,300 employees as Trump vows to wind the agency down. Department officials announced the cuts today, raising questions about the agency's ability to continue usual operations. The Trump administration has already been whittling the agency's staff through buyout offers and the termination of probationary employees. The Associated Press is reporting that after Tuesday's layoffs, the Education Department staff will sit at roughly half. They will sit at roughly half of their previous 4,100. That's according to the agency. The layoffs are part of a dramatic downsizing directed by Trump as he moves to reduce the footprint of the federal government. Thousands of jobs are expected to be cut across the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Social Security Administration and other agencies. We want to remind you that we have a campaign here at KBLA called Fired But Not Forgotten, the Testimony Project, where we're encouraging all of you who have been impacted by these mass firings to reach out to us. Just send us an email at info@smileyAudiomedia.com. If you're on the KBLA app, you can just click on the open mic feature to share your story. And we just might reach back out to you because amplifying the impact of these mass firings, we have to make sure that happens and happens in the tradition of collecting testimony. Can I get an amen? Moving along, Ukraine agrees to a temporary ceasefire with Russia. So many of us thought that maybe we wouldn't see this, but it turns out we are. USA Today is reporting that Ukraine agreed to a temporary ceasefire with Russia today. Negotiations were announced from Saudi Arabia. Russia would need to agree to the proposal for it to take effect as a crucial first step in ending the 3-year-old war. We know that Ukraine was still reeling from an Oval Office meltdown last month between Trump and Zelensky when its negotiators met with administration officials in Saudi Arabia. After a dramatic White House blow-up on February 28th, after that derailed a planned minerals deal, it seems that that deal may be right back on the table. And so we will keep our eye on that because make no mistake, what happens there impacts us here. It impacts food prices here. It impacts fuel prices here, right? And so isolation does not insulate us from matters of the world. When we come forward, we're switching gears a little bit. We are sharing my conversation with Kandi Burruss, one of the producers of the Othello play that is garnering widespread attention. Listen to what got this Real Housewife of Atlanta to give up the drama on the hit Bravo show to invest in a drama on the Broadway stage. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Bam! Out of nowhere. Crashed, hurt, don't panic, don't wait, don't call your insurance company. Call 877-CARE-LAW, the car accident attorneys who care about your case and win you the big money you deserve. Car accident, serious injury, other firms just handle cases. We own them at 877-CARE-LAW. We're the premier injury law firm with a powerhouse team of medical experts who prove your injuries, fight for your rights, and get you the max payout fast. No fees unless you win. Dial 877-CARE-LAW now or visit 877carelaw.com.
877-CARE-LAW, 877-CARE-LAW. Hurt in a crash, don't stall, just call 877-CARE-LAW. Faster wins, bigger pay. After an accident, call right away. 877-CARE-LAW, 877-CARE-LAW.
Car accident, injury, don't call your insurance company. Call one team, one win. 877-CARE-LAW. Call now or go to 877carelaw.com.
This is the story of the one. As a quality technician in a food processing center, she knows that making the right call is the best way to avoid a recall. That's why she trusts Grainger's world-class supply chain to deliver the high-quality supplies she needs to help keep her production line, her equipment, and her customers happy and healthy. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students.
Hit me!
National News The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and always fun to welcome one of my favorite Real Housewives of Atlanta, Kandi Burruss, here to talk to us about a really exciting time in her career when she chose to no longer be a housewife. She's focusing more on acting and producing. If you don't know, she is Tony nominated and now racking up her fourth high-profile play that she's producing and has added another TV acting role to her resume. Welcome to the show, Kandi.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Well, I'm always excited to see you and celebrate you and your latest achievement. Tell us, what inspired you to take a break from the drama of Real Housewives of Atlanta to produce a Shakespearean drama on Broadway?
Well, I mean, the drama probably is the main reason that I took a break. But no, the timing of it all lined up last year. So I'll be trying to explain to people. Last year was my contract year. So normally the network is always able to just pick up my option and I just have to go on into the next season. But last year my contract was up and they didn't have any more options. And so I was able to make the choice to not come back. Yes, for those people who wanted to know, yes, they made me an offer to come back. But I chose not to come back just simply because I wanted to go after my dreams of really building my acting career and taking things to the next level. So to explain for people that don't know how it works, when you become the lead of a show, like if you audition for a lead of a TV show, they want you to give that network first position rights. And because I was on the cast of Real Housewives, I was never able to do that. Like I was never able to audition for any show as a lead character because, I could not give up first right. First rights was always for Bravo. Which, I'm happy what I, did with Bravo. I still have a great relationship and all that's wonderful. I just have other dreams that I'm trying to accomplish. And so I'm just trying to leave myself open to see what I can make happen.
And this wasn't, your first jaunt when it came to Broadway. If I remember correctly, Thoughts of a Colored Man was another show that you had worked on in the past that sort of inspired you to lean into Broadway a bit more.
Thoughts of a Colored Man was the first Broadway show that I was able to be a producer of. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. So, Thoughts of a Colored Man was the first one. I'm on my 4th Broadway production right now, but the first one was the most important because that was at a time when, the pandemic had shut Broadway down. And that had never happened in like the history of Broadway. It's something crazy. Or either the last time it happened was like probably, I don't know, some crazy amount of years ago before we were born. So when we came back with Thoughts of a Colored Man, not only was it one of the first shows to bring Broadway back, but it was the first time ever 7 Black men starred on Broadway.
Really?
Which was important for the culture. You know what I mean? For us to make Broadway come back different. Because for so many years, people looked at Broadway as the great white way. You know what I mean? And that is because, not as many of us, had the opportunity or to not necessarily not about not having opportunity, but there weren't as many shows that starred us. And not only that, but that were produced by us, So, it was to me, what we did with that first one was important. And then all the ones to come after were important as well. We did the piano lesson, which broke records. While we were, we were the highest grossing show for like weeks while we were on. And, what a lot of people didn't understand about it was 70% of our ticket buyers for the piano lesson were from first time Broadway viewers, for people who had never even seen a Broadway show before.
Really?
Yes. So that means y'all showed up and showed out, basically. You know what I mean? Which is important because if we want our stories to be told, if we want more shows that star, people of color or that are produced by people of color, they also have to have the ticket sales to support that, or else we won't get the support that we need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that, the shows that I've been able to be a part of, that the people who support me, they come out. You know what I mean? They come out to support the show, and not just the people that support me, but, we go about producing our shows in a different way. I think I've helped by bringing some of the old school ways of how we promote in music industry. Like back in the day, how we used to go to all the little smaller markets to, do radio interviews or interviews to tell people about our music. We used to go all over, right? So we take that same mentality and how we produce the shows, that myself and Brian, Moreland, and Todd, whenever we come aboard, we take that same mentality. So doing interviews in places that normally, people who are doing Broadway don't go to promote it. You know what I mean? We're there talking about our shows, and bringing people there to let them know, yes, this is also a place for you. You know what I mean? Because I don't think, it wasn't always normalized that, you go to, other cities and, especially platforms, that of people of color to promote a Broadway show.
Amen. Amen. Right.
That wasn't the norm before.
It wasn't, and we definitely feel the difference, and we appreciate you being an industry leader in that way as well. You mentioned the piano lesson, one of August Wilson's amazing pieces of work. And now here you are working on Othello, producing Othello, one of Shakespeare's greatest works. You're really introducing a whole nother audience to Shakespeare with Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal at the helm. What attracted you to Othello? Why did you say, you know what, this is the right project for me? This is the right time.
The piano lesson, John David Washington was one of our stars of the show. And for those people who don't know, that's Denzel Washington's son. John David has his own resume. He's a very talented actor, standalone actor on his own. But of course, his family would come to the show and support him and, and be a part of it all, right? And then during that time, my producing partner, Brian, and Denzel started having conversations, and Denzel made it, known that he wanted to come back to Broadway himself. And, and this is the project that he wanted to do. And he said, make it happen. Here we are. We made it happen.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I mean, I'm sure it's really special to anyone who's been a fan of Denzel Washington, who has just been like the standard when it comes to acting. What is it like, not just as a producer, but you're an actress in your own right? And so in preparation for Othello, were there, certain, tips, were there certain, techniques of Denzel Washington where you're like, oh, okay, peep that?
Well, I'm not in the show. I'm just producing the show. But watching them, meaning Denzel, Jake, and all the other actors that are in our show, because we have some really talented people outside of Jake and Denzel that are in the show. Watching them do their process, little things like Jake Gyllenhaal and I think probably 4 of the other cast members, maybe 3, were totally off book when they came to the table read. I was like, whoa, this how we doing it? Like that. And I don't Shakespeare in the way that it's written is not easy. It's not easy to do. So to hear them speaking and to make it normal, because the Shakespeare was written, so many years ago, hundreds of years ago. And but we brought the show into current day. Well, it's in the year 2028. That's how the way we set the show. So even though they are speaking in the terms of the way that Shakespeare wrote it originally, you're looking at them and they're wearing current day clothing. The set is current day. Everything is current. So it's giving relatable to us today and allowing us to feel more connected to the show, because it's like, okay, now I can see it in my real life terms,
Yeah.
But the only thing about it is, as actors, I know it has to be so hard for them to deliver the lines of Shakespeare and make it normal. Make it just like, oh, this is how we talk. You know what I mean? But they're doing it, and they're doing it in the best way. Like, I don't know if I could have done it like they're doing it, but they're amazing.
But even just that approach is so on brand for you, Kandi, in terms of just creating an on-ramp for people who may be less familiar with the work, for people who might think, oh, I'm not sure if this is for me. Just the approach to this, it really opens up the audience. And I'm not the only one that's noticed that. The Hollywood Reporter is reporting that Othello has brought in a massive $2.6 million across the first 7 performances on Broadway. The play broke multiple box office records at the Ethel Barrymore Theater, surpassing those set by plays across 9 performances and musicals by more than $1 million. $1 million. That's nothing to snuff at.
Somebody. Thank you. It's unbelievable. But obviously, we have a record-breaking team when you look at Jake and Denzel Washington. But I would have to, say that everybody involved, especially our behind the scenes team, our marketing team, producers, everybody, the plans and the thought that has been put into every step of this to try to make sure that we got the word out about it. Because it doesn't matter if you have, these wonderful names if nobody knows, so we are going everywhere to make sure everyone far and wide knows that the show is out here. It's for you. We're making it current for you. We want you to come see it. All of those things are important, and and breaking records and making new trends.
Making new trends indeed. For folks who are less familiar, Othello, and the play by William Shakespeare, it's about a general who's manipulated into believing his wife is unfaithful. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
How is it that you hope this performance speaks to current times?
Well, I mean, it's so much about, it's deceit. It's people showing you a different face than what they are actually doing behind scenes. All of those things are really things that actually happen. But the standout thing for a lot of people, is that Othello himself is a Moor, and he's married to a woman who is, she's a young white woman, obviously, which, for a lot of people in the history of the show, back in the day, when they first started doing it, even though Othello was a Moor, they wouldn't even allow Othello to be played by a black man. It was like, white man in black face, years and years ago. So in the way that we as a society have, obviously made positive changes in a way that we can, say, hey, we do want, a true black man to play this role. That's an advance in the world, in society, in culture today. But when you relate it into the world, it's like leaps and bounds. We have to continue to make change in every area of life when it comes to acceptance and diversity.
Yeah.
But I try to make sure people know that's not what the main core of the show. But because Othello in True Times was a Moor, you have to deal with the fact that yes, he is a black man. It's not a show about race, but people obviously talk about race when Othello comes up. But the more thing that the theme of the show is, deceit, dishonor, betrayal, and allowing yourself to fall for the games.
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone gets to choose. We get to choose how we participate. Stuff happens, but we get to choose how we participate, and that's one of the exciting elements of the show that I hope to see during my birthday weekend. I'm gonna do a Broadway birthday weekend, and so I want to encourage all of our leaders, learners, and listeners to join me in supporting this incredible Broadway performance of Othello. Kandi, in our remaining minute with you, I want to ask you a little bit more about your legacy. I want to zoom out a little bit. We've talked about the Othello play. Everybody knows you from Real Housewives, as co-founder of Escape, and for all the records that you penned, and we love you for it. But when it comes to legacy, what's the legacy that you hope you leave with your kids, Riley, Ace, Blaze, Kayla? You work really hard. You spend a lot of time on the road. At this station in your life, how are you thinking about legacy?
Ooh, I'm trying to make sure that my kids are set up in their, and they know to go after your goals, no matter what it is. So I try to start my kids early in life at what they're trying to do. With Ace, he's already started acting. He's already been on TV shows, trying to show him work ethic. And there's no, things that don't just come easy, So I think we definitely have shown our children, if you can see the thought, you can make it happen. And that's what we're leaving for them, the way that you could just go after your dreams. Even my little 5-year-old, she already been saying for years she wants to be an artist. And I think a lot of people take little children for granted when they say they want to make art, even especially if it's like looking abstract or whatever. But no, when we said, okay, you want to be an artist, we're gonna make you a whole art show. She sold her art, she sold her paintings, like, to teach them how to make your dream a career, So that is important. With my older daughters, Riley has some major things coming up this year, trying to help her get set up and, make sure that, today, we started a Team Riley group chat, with, the people that we want to help her get her career in order to keep going, towards a higher goal, keep taking her to the next level, But, business wise, Todd and I, we talk about it all the time because, like, we start all these businesses and we're like, they're probably not even going to want to have no dang on restaurant when they get older, or they probably not all going to want all of, the other things that we're doing. And he's sometimes like, man, we should just sell all this stuff and just put the money in some stock and just let them, have it later, because they're not going to have the same goals and dreams that we may have. So with that being said, I think it's more important for us to pour into their dreams, what they want to do, and help them figure it out while we're here, and make sure they're set up so that when we're not here, they, know how to handle things and do it the right way. So that's what I'm trying to make happen.
Double click on doing it the right way. This show is a more perfect union, and we don't become a more perfect union if we don't pour into one another. And so thank you for being a demonstration of that, not just with your kids, but with all of us that call ourselves Kandi fans.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Department of Education staff were told to vacate offices by Tuesday evening due to security reasons. Buildings will be closed Wednesday and reopened Thursday. This comes amid reports President Trump may dissolve the department. The University of Alaska Southeast is removing DEI terms from its site to comply with executive orders. Despite this, the chancellor says the school remains committed to inclusivity. Over 150 terms are under review to protect federal funding. Professional football star Odell Beckham Jr. and comedian Drewski are named in a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, accused in a 2018 assault case. Both deny the claims. This adds to over 100 lawsuits against Diddy, who faces racketeering and sex trafficking charges. And Prince George's County Fire and EMS is donating 40 sets of gear to firefighters in Africa. The idea came after a meeting with a county leader and Liberia's vice president. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Pasadena to 10 eastbound, delays from Mountain. It's a pretty heavy drive all the way out to Citrus. Also heavy is the drive on the 10 eastbound in Santa Monica, leaving Cloverfield. Delays really slow across Mid-City all the way to the 5 in Boyle Heights. It's tough on the 5, making your way southbound out of Griffith Park. Delays from Colorado as you travel in stretches all the way to the 605. And northbound delays out of Norwalk. This is loading up away from just about Carmenita. You're on the brakes to the 605 freeway. More slowing in Boyle Heights from the 60 to the 2.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
Is this the tackle? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. 4 days ago, the Lakers were the talk of the NBA with an 8-game winning streak and projections as a legitimate contender for the Western Conference title. The Lakers have lost 2 in a row after losing at Brooklyn Monday night, 111-108. Injuries are becoming a major issue. The Lakers did not have 4 players who have started games this season, including LeBron, who is out for 2 weeks with a groin injury. Injuries to Jackson Hayes, Rui Hachimura, and Dorian Finney-Smith are showing how vulnerable the Lakers can be if they're not healthy. The Clippers are in New Orleans tonight to start a 3-game trip. The Clippers are going for their 4th straight win. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts has a new contract. The Dodgers gave the 52-year-old Roberts a 4-year extension worth $32.4 million. Roberts and the Angels' Ron Washington are the only 2 black managers in Major League Baseball. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
A new day is on the horizon.
Who paved the way for the leaders of today? An untold number of remarkable women, known and unknown, who shaped our past and continue to inspire our future in every field of human endeavor, education, civil rights, technology, and more. Celebrating Women's History Month, we are KBLA Talk 1580.
LA property owners, join us to house more veterans. By accepting veteran housing vouchers, you will receive guaranteed rent while providing a stable and safe home that will make a difference in their lives. Help house our heroes. Expedited processing and dedicated support for property owners is available because every veteran deserves a place to call home. Email houseuurvets@lacity.org, HOUSEOURVETS@lacity.org for more information.
Fatherhood includes being present during pregnancy, delivery, and beyond, supporting your partner and advocating for your baby's health. Black fathers play a key role in reducing maternal and infant health inequalities. Join the free AIM Fatherhood Program and make a difference. Visit blackinfantsandfamilies.org/fatherhood.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and delighted to welcome back to the show Todd Belcore. He's the executive director of Social Change, a nonprofit at the intersection of storytelling and activism. They use film, they use organizing, they use litigation and technical assistance and advocacy to dismantle the new Jim Crow and transform lives, communities, and systems. Todd, you must be mighty busy these days, but welcome to the show.
I am mighty busy, but it's an honor to be here. You've always been such a real stalwart in the community and really making sure stories are being told and the facts are being proliferated out in the community. So I'm glad to join you today.
Well, really glad to have you here always to help us make it make sense. And I saw this headline earlier today, and I was so glad that you were going to be here to help us sort of separate the fact from the fiction. CNN reporting on the chill effect of Trump's war against the legal establishment. The Trump administration, no secret, they're waging a war against the legal community in the United States with a target list that is growing by the day. Thus far, President Trump has issued executive orders that have targeted 2 law firms representing his perceived enemies, and his administration has attacked firms and law schools it says may be violating presidential initiatives against diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm referring to the executive orders that was signed restricting Perkins Coie's access to classified information and federal buildings, as well as threats against Georgetown Law School. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. As somebody who's a leader in impact litigation, help us understand how significant this is.
You can't underline how significant this is. I mean, this is the most emboldened attack against the vitality of our legal system that we've had in the last 60 years. And it's important to highlight it, and I'm glad you're bringing attention to it. Because if this is able to continue to go unchecked, if this is able to continue to go without being fully under the scrutiny of the general public, what will happen is what exactly is already starting to happen. More businesses will be more nervous about just standing up and doing the right thing. These aren't businesses that are, progressive pitchfork carrying. They're just basically acting out and carrying out arguments to make sure that the law is being respected and that the longstanding precedents relating to things like diversity, things like government transparency, things like, holding people accountable for committing crimes are things that are all still going to be things we can count on in this country. And what the president, based on not only the composition of the Supreme Court, but also emboldened somewhat by the very strong victory that he just had in that electorally, he's riding all that power, all that wave to do as much damage as he can, as quickly as he can.
It's important to point out that this move, it encroaches on what the legal community views as a fundamental right for people needing lawyers to have the freedom to choose who represents them. The community that even Trump had as a criminal defendant being prosecuted by the Justice Department. And so, talk to us about really the far-reaching consequences. If the Trump administration is successful in isolating law firms that may specialize in certain types of crimes, or law firms that may have, a significant commitment around pro bono work, or let's talk about legal defense funds, Lambda Legal, MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, right? I am sensing that this is a crisis in the making that is being grossly underreported.
Absolutely. And the type of organizations you're talking about, the ones that provide service to people who otherwise would never get it from anywhere else. So not only is he allowing and creating a pathway for others who are committing similar crimes or things that he's been at least accused of not just indictments, but beyond that, to go and always kind of under the cover of night. He's making it so people won't be able to have a roof over their heads. He's making it so people won't be able to fight to secure their job that's been unjustly taken from them. He's fighting to make sure people who are being treated differently at work and abused or dealing with all sorts of horrible situations aren't in a position to have someone to stand up and fight for them to make sure that justice can be served. So when you have a president that's really, of all the pillars of government, is really just undermining one of the most critical ones, the ones that's supposed to be neutral, the one that's supposed to be nonpartisan, and bringing partisan and fueling partisan conjecture and approaches to it. It's as dangerous and scary as it gets. And so I think not only is this something that lawyers need to be talking about, but leaders like yourself and people who are doing amazing work like Queen Burruss you just showed, to help recognize that this is reverse stage in unraveling this entire country. And if we don't catch it now, if we lose control of the legal system in terms of it being blind and non-partial, then there is no accountability. And for someone who's as powerful as the president is, taking away accountability is about as scary as it gets.
And what makes it even scarier is not just the significant legal questions that it calls to question, but some of the politics that are called into question. USA Today reporting that progressive activists have an agenda for resisting Trump. The question is, will Democrats follow? While their targets might seem misplaced, the logic is that progressive activists should have a new strategy for fighting back, which is specifically going after congressional Democrats, protesting congressional Democrats. A lot of folks are saying that the party's liberal vote is going after as one of the most likely respond. It's the most likely that they will respond to pressure if activists go after them, talking about primary challenges to Democrats to push them to hold the line. A lot of folks have just been really underwhelmed at Democrats' response in terms of their response to Trump's mass firing of folks, the shuttering of agencies. There are a lot of Democrats out there that feel like the party should be emulating, of all people, Mitch McConnell and GOP's effective obstructionism. What say you?
That's a really difficult total line. To be honest with you, I mean, to hold the Democrats responsible for a president that they didn't vote for and have no power over, and especially not considering the impeachment authorities all but gone, but there's not enough Republicans to get support in that regard, is a big ask. I would suggest instead that we try to put ourselves in the shoes of these congressional Democrats and say, hey, well, if you were trying to put out not one, but entire country worth of fires every single day of your life, if you were trying to not only handle one issue regarding whether or not they're defunding or doing things about important schools and institutions, but also the legal community, but then also people are running scared because they may not have documentation or be accused of not having documentation. There's so many issues of so much significance. I think now is the time to try to do whatever you can to support people who you agree with in that regard. But in terms of what we're doing, necessarily social change, we are a nonpartisan organization, so we focus on the policy. We focus on fighting for the policies we know will address and ensure that there's some decency in government and transparency in government, whether that means affirmatively fighting to make sure that there's more minority contracts, or affirmatively fighting to make sure we're protecting people from having to be submitted to conversion therapy and all these things that we know don't work in our forms of torture, or making sure that people who are in prison are treated justly. We have to continue to fight for those things. But in the interim, as companies start to sign on and support the agenda that many feel to be extreme of President Trump, that's also a place where there's a lot of work to be done that isn't being done by activists in terms of boycotting and really having solidarity around what are we going to do to respond to companies that made it clear they do not care about diversity, do not care about inclusion, do not care about our history, our struggle, our resilience, or our brilliance. I mean, if we're getting spit in the face on a daily basis by so many people, the least we can do is not come back the next day and give money to that person. And that's basically what we're doing. Places like Target, places like Walmart, and places that are furthering the agenda of the current president. But to your initial question about are Democrats the problem, that's a stretch for me. But that being said, I mean, I understand people are frustrated and there's so much going on. It's easier to kind of blame and get mad at the person next to you than the person across the street. So I can see it being a bit more of that. But I think what I would recommend is to continue to fight the battles that matter in terms of policy and be on defenses where you can, but also fight for things affirmatively that will protect some of the standards of dignity and human rights that we've come to hold dear, just like we're doing here in Illinois, places like North Carolina, Georgia, and California.
I take your point in terms of being clear-eyed in terms of what we're fighting for, what's worth fighting for in this particular moment, recognizing that we don't have endless resources, endless energy, the endless attention of the media. But I just want to sort of zero in on tactics. This USA Today article talked about how a number of these progressive groups want Democrats to deploy obscure stalling tactics in the Senate, such as, taking attendance to force enough of a majority of senators to be on the floor and going through slow procedural votes. They also are urging the party to take big swings in Congress, including threatening to shut down the government if Republicans don't agree to rein in Trump. When we come forward, I want to get your take on the tactics. I think we're clear on what the focus needs to be, and where there are opportunities to push back, or at least to mitigate the worst of potential policy change. But I want to get your take on the tactics, because a lot of the work that your organization, Social Change, does is with activists, the activist class. And so I think you're the right person to ask.
Yes.
More with Todd Belcore when we come forward. No, I'm not DJ such and such. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and you're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and he is Todd Belcore. He is the executive director of Social Change. Todd is a 6-time national award-winning lawyer, a mediator, an advocate, lecturer, and he is a co-founder with over 20 years of experience serving our communities. We have been talking about some of the calls that we're hearing from progressive activists for Democrats to fight harder. Now, I want to first just acknowledge that Todd's organization, Social Change, is nonpartisan. right? And so let's just establish that. I'm thinking about Miss Sophia from The Color Purple, the character Miss Sophia from The Color Purple. All my life I've had to fight.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of activists out there that hear from political leaders and advocacy leaders that, we got to keep fighting. We got to keep fighting. Well, a lot of people are tired of fighting for the sake of fighting. And there are a number of progressive activists that are calling to fight smarter. USA Today published an article in which leaders of progressive groups want Democrats to deploy obscure stalling tactics in the Senate, such as taking attendance to force enough of a majority of senators to be on the floor and going through slow procedural votes. They also are urging the party to take big swings in Congress, including threatening to shut down the government if Republicans don't agree to just rein in Trump. Rein in Trump. These activists aren't saying, get him to vote against everything he wants. They're saying just rein him in. And so I want to get your hot take on those tactics. And I'm curious if there are other tactics that you would implore, folks whose worldview is consistent with the mission of your organization to lean into.
Well, the first thing I need to highlight, these aren't obscure tactics. These are tactics that have been used for several election cycles already. So roll call votes or threatening to shut down government, we've been experiencing that for multiple presidents now. So for it to all of a sudden be considered extreme just because one party is considering something that other parties have been doing for several cycles, I think is also part of the issue. I think what you said at the top of the segment, we've got to be clear-eyed here. I mean, when you've got a situation in this country where we're worried about the undermining of the legal profession, the judiciary. We're worried about the undermining of Congress. We're worried about the undermining of the entire executive office. We need to use everything in our tool belt, every trick, every trade, every activism movement, and mobilize that and execute that to see what can be done to stall and make sure that the storm can be weathered. Because I disagree with a lot of activists and saying, and a lot of folks who are out here on the front lines saying, I don't know if we can survive all this unless there's something to be done to make sure that we're girding and supporting the pillars of this government, of the society in a more reasonable and focused way. We're different as an organization because we don't demand things of Democrats, we demand things of Republicans, we demand things of everybody. No matter what the letter is next to your name, we're still going to ask you to help us in fighting for basic legislation that restores dignity, protects human rights. It does the things that we know are necessary for people to take care of themselves and their families, but also live a dignified quality of life. But this is a state of emergency. And the fact that so many people are experiencing burnout and it's barely hundreds of days in, it just goes to show that this will be the longest 4 years of people's life that may not even make it unless more is done now collectively and individually for people to dig deeper and do more than they've ever done before. And this is why we've been more organizing, mobilizing, provide free legal clinics more than ever, provide free farmers markets more than ever, because we know more people are out of work, more people are struggling, more people are dealing with the consequences of these decisions, these executive orders and the like, that seem like they're, on paper may be innocent, but they're very clearly not only decimating the entire Black and brown middle class, but they're also instilling a great deal of fear and terror that is causing people to not only care for just their basic safety, but also wonder what they're going to do in terms of what they're going to be in this country or not. And when you have people within this country feeling that way, if that was to be inflicted by someone from outside of this country, we would call it something completely different, right? So I think people need to stop, trivializing this and thinking, oh, this is something we can weather. It's going to be all right. We bounce back from worse. Not recently. And I'm not sure if we can until people decide to look at this clear-eyed, as you say, and use every tactic they have at their disposal, whether it's more money, more time, more political tactics, or otherwise.
In our remaining minute with you, Todd, I want to give you an opportunity to share the quiet part out loud. Is there anything that your organization is working on, anything you're working on or supporting that we are not amplifying enough in the media? I want to pass the mic to you, give you a chance to share whatever that is, and also let our leaders, learners, and listeners know where they can go to tap into some of the work that you're leading over at Social Change.
Well, one of the things we're doing, I think, isn't talked about enough, but it's certainly super important. Beyond the legal clinics that are important to removing barriers that keep people from getting jobs or occupational license and stuff like that, not enough people realize this Jim Crow thing is real and the evolution of it is real. And the fact that there has been statutory legalized discrimination that permits people to never be able to get certain jobs, never be able to get certain housing, that's being overlooked now more than ever as people concerned about things that are also on the fires, the front lines as a result. So as people wonder, why is it, why do we need DEI? Why do we need all these things? They're forgetting that the persistent and pervasive evolution of slavery has allowed for people to be permanently discriminated against through the use of criminal records. So past mistakes are being used as a justification to tell people no, to be able to take care of their families, take housing, and all the things we know are necessary. So that's the thing that we're continuing to fight for, to provide these free legal clinics to meet those needs, but more importantly, to also teach people who are navigating these issues to how to grow their own food, how to be completely independent in other ways. So we're not just dealing with the colonizing of different aspects of people's lives, whether it be the job market or otherwise, but to make sure we can also free people from some of the unhealthy outcomes that come from eating the food that are the only options in too many of our communities.
Our thanks to Todd Belcore, the Executive Director of Social Change. Todd, where can people go online quickly to tap into the work of Social Change?
Yes, absolutely. Please check us out at socialchange.site, socialchange.site, SITE, or Shy Social Change, THI Social Change, on Instagram, X, Facebook, and get involved. This is not a time to just stay, the comfort of your home, the comfort of your social media platform. Use your voice, multiply your impact by getting involved, and do whatever you can to go one step beyond your comfort zone, because we need it now more than ever.
Multiply your impact. We hear you loud and clear. Please come back again soon.
Thank you. God bless you. I really appreciate you, good doctor.
You too. You too. You've been listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Department of Education staff were told to vacate offices by Tuesday evening due to security reasons. Buildings will be closed Wednesday and reopened Thursday. This comes amid reports President Trump may dissolve the department. The University of Alaska Southeast is removing DEI terms from its site to comply with executive orders. Despite this, the chancellor says the school remains committed to inclusivity. Over 150 terms are under review to protect federal funding. Professional football star Odell Beckham Jr. and comedian Drewski are named in a lawsuit against